shit, no. My god, you all came in fast. Hello, 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 everybody. I love this background. How are you all?
Chaos, 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 chaos. Banana, 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 banana.
God damn it, Starry. But still. Also. Thank you for the lurk though, Dreary. Hopefully you enjoy the stream. I hope. Hello Cat, Butterfly, Cam, Cross, Darkfire, Starry. Yep, those will come in handy.
Sauropod, cat, sauropod, cat, sauropod, cat, sauropod, cat, sauropod, cat, sauropod.
Starry.
Sauropod, cat, sauropod, cat, sauropod, cat, sauropod, cat.
Oh my god, Starry.
Cat, sauropod, cat, sauropod, cat, sauropod. Storm is such a sussy badussy. Meow meow.
Starry. With how it's typed, or with how it says out, the kind of wish it did not do that for emotes. I can find a way to turn off the saying the emotes, that'd be nice, but god damn it. But still, how's everybody doing today? Yes, I signed up to be friends. But do you have the Yes, I do have that. Okay. Am I on display capture? I'm not on display capture. Good. Right? I already did that image. And I need that. God damn it, you guys. Already fucking bonking. Okay. God damn it, you guys. Why? Why must bonk? Why must bonk? Leah, why? Why you bonk? Why betray me? I am not the bonk person. God damn it, Leah. Had a lot of coffee today. Fucking love knowing you guys. But god damn it. But even still. Fucking, as much as I complain. Yeah, no, that's not weird, sorry. I know, as much as I fucking complain, I love having y'all here. Like, fucking thank you. Seriously. Like, you're amazing. So. How was the chugging? Oh jeez. Had a lot of Ray is always busy. That's it. That's at least what it feels like. Necco cream cheese. Oh no. Any coffees? Leah. Naughty, naughty, Leah. Naughty, naughty. God damn it, Leah. God. Me, I'm... How much is... I kind of estimate how much caffeine I've had so far today. 58 milligrams for this, so that means I'm gonna be pushing 150 milligrams already. Vibrates. But yeah. I want ice cream. Ice cream sounds amazing. Leah, can you come over here and share, please? Oh my god, you guys. Fucking love having you guys. I fucking love knowing you all. I'm 60. I am... Man, I'm derping hard. Like, I just realized I'm at 560 follows. Fucking hell yeah. We're not even to one... We're still 10 days away from my birthday, too. Fucking thank you guys for all the support. Like, you're fucking amazing. I do not deserve you guys. Yeah, no, I'm kind of with Leah on that one. But Hope does make a point. How bad do you actually want it? You really want Actually, no, Leah. Let's say it this way. If you go out and look, you already want ice cream now. But if you go out in that heat, you'll want the ice cream more. And you might get a bigger one and enjoy it on the way home, saving you the delivery fee. But still. Oh, damn. But still. I think when it just comes down to it, I'm fucking happy to know you all. Really, really am. Yeah, I don't even know what. Which extra side note, if you guys want to ask anything, you want to make me do any quizzes or whatever, my birthday stream is probably just gonna be a little hangout thing. So yeah, no, feel free to shoot me some links for what to do on my birthday. So wait, I literally just paused. Oh, fuck me. Wrong one. Meant to fucking snooze the ads. I am sorry. I fucked up. Ah, damn it. I fucked up. Oh. Okay, let's hit the right fucking button this time. There. Fucking hell. I am so sorry for that, Leah. Why is that button right next to that one? But still. Starry. Smash or Pass is what I'll probably do for the 750. If you want me to do that, let's get up to 750. And I'll know more people then, and hopefully have a far bigger reach and be able to get more people for that. That could be fun. But as far as for the birthday, it's like I know I'll be redoing the BDSM test. I'll be doing the rice purity test. If you got any other quizzes or tests you'd like me to do. Are you on? Yes, I am, Starry. That's exactly where I am. I love the ambiance here. But I hope you didn't need to do that, but thank you. Thank you, Hope. I gotta figure out what I want to do in, like, if I'll have like any incentive things for my birthday. I don't know. Just let me know what you guys would like to do. Oh. Well, I am doing that still. From the 24-hour stream, I got a lot more Bean Boozled than I needed. No, Starry. Oh, was that necessary? And here I was saying that you did that, so I'm gonna eat one of the Bean Boozled. And you went and did that. Why'd you do that to me? What is this one? Birthday cake or dirty dishwater? Yeah, birthday cake. Leah, as a just in case, I bought a lot of Bean Boozled. So I have a lot of Bean Boozled behind me. So I'm just using them up every time somebody gives bits or subs. I need to refill my water. I'll be right back. And away we shall go. Here's your half-liter of fucking water there, Hope.
Hello there.
Other story. Seriously. Seriously. Fucking little shit. Why am I surrounded by brats? A 700 millet. Fucking hell. Yeah, no, Leah, my drown is about. I drink roughly a half liter of water, and I think it's setting a 40-minute cooldown, I think.
Hello there.
There's your workout. Okay, Cleo attacked. Oh no. Hello there, Omniwolf. So. Please. Please don't do that. Yeah. Uh. Okay. So, let's see. You guys ready to start? Thank you for the lurk, Omniwolf. Nope. That is not the stream. I did not. I better not. Might have been what you clicked. Because I did not set that up properly initially. But it has since been corrected. You've been banned from ginger beer. Why is that, Leah? Well then. It's so spicy I choked. Oh geez, Leah. But are you guys ready for the audiobook? Don't choke, swallow. Oh god. I'm just gonna do this. Oh, wait a minute. There we go. Sorry about that. There we go. I don't know who put my mask on, but... Oh, thank you for the alert, Garashi. So... And... Boop. Marhite was everything one would expect from a trader who'd open a branch in a foreign land. Though initially shocked by Lawrence's revelation, he soon calmed himself and began to think the situation through. He uttered not so much as a single word of blame for Horo, who'd been captured, or Lawrence, who'd made his escape. He was entirely focused on protecting the interest of the Malone Company and extracting any valuable profit from the situation. Double checking, is the audio balance okay so far? I want to make sure I'm not getting overpowered by the background music. Okay. There's no doubting the threat implied by this letter. They wish you, Mr. Lawrence, to know that if you don't want your partner given up to the church, you must stay inside and not interfere. They must want us to keep out of their way until their plan for the Trenny Silver is concluded. But that doesn't mean they won't still turn Horo in when they're through. Quite right. And furthermore, we've already invested quite heavily in the coin. Pulling out now means our losses will be huge because the Trenny is guaranteed to depreciate. In such a situation, there is essentially no choice at all. They could sit and await ruin, or they could strike. The former was hardly an option. I suppose this means we have no choice but to strike first, said Lawrence. Marhite took a deep breath and nodded. However, merely rescuing your companion won't be enough. Even if we hide her here, once the church gets involved, we'll have no choice but to roll over and let them have their way. She can't hide as long as she's in this city. What if we were to flee the city entirely? It's a great plain as far as the eye can see, and even if you reached another city, there's a chance you could be extradited. Then there'd be no hope for you at all. They were cornered. Even meek compliance with the Medio Company's demands would probably still result in Horo being delivered to the church. There was no reason for them to avoid ruining a foreign company. In fact, the fewer competitors they had, the better. Yet striking first carried with it a host of difficulties. No, difficult was the wrong word. Every possibility available to them was the height of recklessness. Is there nothing we can do, mused Marhite, as if talking to himself. At this rate, we won't even be able to avoid the unfounded accusations, to say nothing of actually making a profit. Lawrence felt as if he were sitting on a carpet of needles as he listened to Marhite speak, but he bowed his head and listened. He would do whatever it took to bring about favorable results. Merchants lacked the pride of knights or nobility. They were prepared to lick a stranger's boots if it meant coming out ahead. So Lawrence did not hear sarcasm or scorn in Marhite's words, simply analysis. He had clearly summarized the situation they now faced. You're saying we need some kind of card we can play against them. You could put it that way. But even if we invest more capital, it's meager compared to what they stand to gain from the Trenny Silver. So the problem can't be solved with money. We could report their abduction of your companion to the church, but that would cause problems for you, and you might even deliver an unfavorable testimony about our company. That is quite possible. There's no point in lying, so Lawrence told the truth. He simply couldn't cut Hodo loose. But if he did, unquestionably that would solve the problem. Marhite was undoubtedly aware of that fact. If it came down to it, he would certainly try to persuade Lawrence to take that option, though unsuccessfully. Lawrence knew that he would choose death with Hodo first. Though naturally he hoped he wouldn't have to. This left him no alternative but to come up with some kind of plan to alter this indefensible position. All I can think of, Lawrence interjected, is to finish negotiating the Trenny Silver deal and use the resulting profit as a trump card. Marhite's eyes went wide at Lawrence's proposal. He didn't want to lose the Malone Company's profits, that almost magical return made possible by exploiting a depreciating currency, any more than Lawrence wanted to lose Hodo. Such opportunities came around only once in a great while. That was what made Lawrence's proposed trump card so potent. If it came down to it, the Medio Company would happily turn Hodo over rather than lose a profit. Still, or perhaps because of that, Marhite covered his eyes in worry. Losing that opportunity would be like losing a child. This magical trading partner could bring them staggering gains. That partner was none other than the king of the Kingdom of Trenny. The greatest gain that can be extracted from Trenny Silver is securing special privileges from the king. According to our research, the finances of the royal family are in decline. In other words, if this deal succeeds, we'll have substantial favor with the royal family. Abandoning it for my companion makes no sense at all, said Lawrence. Are you suggesting they purchase it from us? Lawrence nodded. He had heard of deals on this scale before, but he'd never been involved in one. He had no assurances that it could actually be done, but his long experience as a merchant suggested that it could. If it comes down to a choice between destroying the Malone Company or obtaining special privileges from the king, perhaps we could simply have them pay the equivalent value. Lawrence was speaking off the top of his head, but it seemed plausible. The idea that you could make money from depreciating currency by collecting as much of it as possible was predicated on the presupposition that the same Kingdom of Trenny that minted the coins would be willing to buy up the currency. They would do so because after recalling the currency, they could melt it down, and they could mint more coins with a lower silver content, resulting in more physical currency. If 10 coins became 13 coins, it meant a gain of 3 coins. This was the best way to increase immediately available funds, but it hurt the nation's credibility, which would result in a loss over the long term. For the royal family to be willing to do this implied that it was in dire financial straits. What was worse, if they didn't have enough of the crucial coin, diluting it wouldn't create extra funds the nation needed for breathing room. The Medio Company was trying to assemble a large amount of the Trenny silver to exploit this opportunity. Depending on the circumstances, they might attempt to collect all of the trendy silver circulating in the marketplace. Then they would go to the king and say something like, "If you agree to the price we set, and give us certain considerations, we will sell you the currency." With few exceptions, the king was only king, or a king was a king only because his fortune or lands were greater than those of other nobility, and because he had garnered the support of a population who did not question his legitimacy. But simply being the monarch did not guarantee perfect control over the lands of the kingdom. The royal family could not simply control assets administered by other nobility. Thus, the assets of the royalty were not appreciably more significant than those of the various nobles. What made them special were the assorted duties that fell under the royal prerogative: authority over mines, mints, tariffs, market administration, and so on. While such authority didn't bring with it automatic gains, if one knew how to manipulate the authority, it was like shaking money out of a tree. In all likelihood, the Medio Company wanted control over one of these domains. Precisely which one was unclear. But if whatever they were planning was successful, they stood to gain a major advantage for their business. What Lawrence brought to the Malone Company was a proposal to snatch this opportunity away. They aimed to collect more trendy silver than the Medio Company and negotiate with the king first. From the king's perspective, dealing with two companies competing for the same privileges would be troublesome. Thus, if he were to deal with anyone, it would be with the sole company. If the Malone Company could conclude the negotiations first, it would be impossible for the Medio Company to secure any privileges. Those privileges were entirely unique. For the Medio Company's part, if said privileges were something that could be simply purchased, they would pay any price. The Malone Company was no different, but held by the scruff of the neck as they were now. They would have to be content with a moderate compensation. Still, if they play their card, it won't just destroy this branch. We'll be burned at the stake. Will they deal with us? Now was the time for his nerve. Lawrence leaned forward and murmured, "Surely the king would be troubled to learn that the company with which he was dealing with was to be burned as heretics." Marhite gasped at the realization. The church's authority surpassed even national borders. Its power was significant even within mighty empires, to say nothing of small kingdoms like Trenny. And in any case, the king of Trenny was having financial difficulties. The last thing he would want was trouble with the church. If we can sign a contract with the king, the Medio Company won't be able to touch us. Even if they try to turn us over to the church, the king will not be pleased with the company that brought such trouble down upon him. I see. Still, they won't just stay silent. They might just try to bring us down with them. True. So, in addition to the price for the privileges, we'll hand over, we'll be demanding your companion. Yes. Marhite stroked his chin, his face expressing admiration. He looked down at the table. Lawrence knew what Marhite was going to say next. He took a deep breath and gathered his wits in anticipation of his answer. This unique plan could break the deadlock and bring both Lawrence and the Malone Company great profit. But it had its difficulties. If Lawrence couldn't overcome those difficulties, he would either have to cut Hodo loose or be burned alongside her by the church. The former would not happen. Not ever. Marhite looked up. Hypothetically, it's a sound strategy, but I'm sure you realize it would be nearly impossible to execute. You're talking about how we'll surpass the Medio Company, yes? Marhite put his hand to his chin and nodded. Lawrence was prepared for this. As far as I can tell, the Medio Company has not yet collected a significant amount of silver. And your basis for saying so is... My basis is that they didn't turn over Hodo to the church upon capturing her. If they already had enough silver, they'd have gone directly to the church in order to destroy us. Instead, they're trying to prevent us from moving, probably because they're concerned about the time it would take for the church to conclude our trial and sentencing. We would reach an agreement with the king. To put it another way, they think you've already collected enough silver to begin negotiations. It shows they have no confidence in their own position. Marhite listened with his eyes closed. Lawrence took a breath and continued. Also, I don't think the Medio Company wants anyone to know that they're collecting Trenny silver. It helps them take advantage of the king's weak position. From the standpoint of a nobleman dealing with the king, it shows consideration for the king's position and their relationship in the future to say that he just happened to have a large amount of silver on hand. No matter how transparent the lie, but to have the people like Zarin target traveling merchants and suck us into the deal, I think their aim is to begin by having merchants gather the silver for them and buy it up at the opportune moment. Even if they suspect Zarin's motives, if someone's willing to buy the currency, they'll be happy to sell. This is all speculation on my part, but I don't think I'm wrong. If the Medio Company started buying Trenny silver in bulk, every company in the area would notice a strange trend in the coin, and we'd be far from their only problem. Marhite nodded slowly. Given all that, this may be possible, he murmured reluctantly, eyes still closed. The speculation was plausible, but it was still mere speculation. Perhaps they hadn't turned in Horo because they didn't wish to provoke the main branch of the Malone Company. For whatever reason, the Medio Company was hesitating. Given the hesitation, Lawrence and his partners had no choice but to take advantage. Alright, we'll assume the Medio Company is not yet prepared to move. Based on that assumption, what action do you suggest, Mr. Lawrence? Lawrence took those words at face value. He couldn't afford to show any weakness. He took a deep breath and spoke. I will find Horo, rescue her, and we'll run until the negotiations are finished. Marhite's breath caught. You can't be serious. Escape may be impossible, but we'll buy you some time. Use it to gather as much silver as you can and conclude the negotiation. It's not possible. So you're going to turn Hodo in then? I'll be forced to publicly denounce the Malone Company. It was an unmistakable threat. Marhite's mouth gaped, and Lawrence's near betrayal, stunned. The fact remained, though, that even if they chose to sacrifice Hodo, the Malone Company had a contract with her. And Lawrence. If it came to a church trial, the company had perhaps a 4 in 10 chance of being judged blameless. And even then, heavy fines would be levied. It went without saying that Lawrence would testify against the Malone Company. Marhite agonized. Lawrence took the opportunity to push. With the Malone Company's help, we should be able to escape him for a day or two. She's a wolf spirit after all. If she sets her strength to escape, none will be able to catch her. Lawrence had no idea if that was true, of course, but it sounded convincing. Hodo was caught because she acted as a decoy. If we hadn't had a destination and sought only escape, that would have been easy. Might I ask how long your company will need to assemble sufficient coin to command the king's attention? Though Marhite appeared overwhelmed by Lawrence's bravado, his mind was racing at the possibilities. His gaze flicked across the room. It was clear he was deep in thought. Lawrence thought if he could rescue Hodo cleanly, and the Malone Company was willing to help, he'd be able to stay on the run for an even 2 days. Pozio was an old city. There were many buildings, and the roads and alleyways were complex. If one wanted to hide, there were innumerable places to do so. Assuming he was running from only the Medio Company, Lawrence believed he could stay hidden. Marhite opened his eyes. If we send a rider to Trenny now, he'll make it there by sunset if all goes well. Assuming we can commence negotiation immediately, he'll return here by dawn tomorrow. Longer negotiation will lengthen his stay. Can you send a rider immediately? You haven't confirmed the amount of silver you have. There's a limit on how much coin we can house, so we can place a rough estimate on how much we'll be able to collect. As long as we have that much by the day the actual transaction, we'll be fine. Even if they negotiated optimistically, there would be no problem as long as a currency was assembled by the day of the settlement. The idea was sound enough in theory, but it took a big merchant to actually accomplish such reckless dealing. Additionally, they had to be able to offer enough capital that the king would think he couldn't afford to depend solely on his own resources. Using a mere approximation of available monies to carry out such a negotiation was a height of recklessness. But the very fact that Marhite was proposing the idea lent it credence, Lawrence thought. We wanted to negotiate only after we discovered who was back in the Medio Company, which would reveal their funding, and then we'd be able to both preempt their deal and estimate our own. But we'd neither time to think nor look for more information. Though he knew it was impossible, Lawrence worked the problem around in his head and came up with nothing. He sighed as if his voice was powerless. He had to keep looking ahead. He straightened himself and regarded Marhite. Can you reach a fast settlement with the king? Lawrence would have to run whether or not negotiations were speedy. He was powerless to change the situation, but would feel better knowing. If the Malone Company wills it, negotiations will be brief. Lawrence couldn't help chuckling bitterly, but Marhite certainly sounded reliable. He reached out with his right hand. I imagine you know where Horo is then, he asked, as though inquiring about the weather. We are the Malone Company. Lawrence shook Marhite's hand, glad to have chosen the right company to deal with. Okay, we're at a little break right here. So, how you guys doing? Trying to see where the end of... Okay. We're about halfway through chapter 5 at the moment. So, how's everybody's Sundays going? Okay, fuck. Stop that. Oh. You are not somebody I am lurking. Update who I am lurking. You guys don't need the help. Let's pick... Excuse me. Let's pick you. Okay. There we go. Double checking all that. But why, Leah? Why bonk? I'm trying to be the supportive friend. God damn it. Why do you bonk me out of love? Is that why you bonk? God damn it. Such a brat. But, brat or not, love knowing you, Leah. You're awesome. God fucking... You're an awesome friend. Which, man, you are a pain in my ass. God damn it. mentioned ice cream, and now I want ice cream. God fucking damn. Do I have ice cream? Hi there, Nunzi. What even is that? Fair enough. What is that? Shade in the Empire? Okay. Okay. Time to continue. Assassination of our employees and arson of our facilities are the facts of daily life for us. That's why we make it a point to know the city better than anyone. We have contingencies for any emergency. Even if a legion of knights should storm the city walls, we'll survive. But we do have a rival. The church? Indeed. The church, like us, has a far-reaching presence. Their frontline missionaries are especially like us in this regard, exceeding even our abilities. You're aware of this, no doubt. They are ubiquitous and elusive, yes. Should the church launch a search in earnest, you must not run before thinking. Stay hidden in one place. Of course, we hope to have the deals concluded by then. The password will be Puranon Numai. 2 great gold coins then. It seemed auspicious. I shall pray for your success. I understand. I hope your hopes will be well met. Lawrence shook Marhide's hand again and climbed into the cart. The cart was completely unremarkable, the kind you'd see anywhere. But it had a roof that made it impossible to see who was riding within. This was not, however, to help Hodo escape, but rather to deliver Lawrence to Hodo. In fact, it was less about delivering Lawrence than it was about hiding his whereabouts. Agents of the Malone Company had caught wind of the commotion the previous day, and had followed the thugs without knowing at the time what was going on. They just learned where Hodo was being held. They assumed the Medio Company had people watching them as well. There was no such thing as too much caution. Merchants would try to deceive each other just as soon as look at one another. All the more so when they weren't looking. Together with another Malone employee that was riding along, Lawrence dismantled the floorboards of the carriage and looked down at the slowly passing cobblestones. Once I've descended, I should touch the right-hand wall and go forward, right? Your destination's at the end. If all goes well, a hatch will open above you. Should you hear the word Raka, please wait for the escort to arrive. If you hear Peroso, though. Make your escape with Hodo along the planned route immediately. The good outcome and the bad, eh? Said Lawrence. Easy to understand, isn't it? Lawrence gave a wry grin and nodded his comprehension. We'll be there soon. Immediately after the Malone employee spoke, the horseman on the driver's seat knocked the wall. It was a stop signal. The carriage braked to the sound of neighing horses as the driver shouted angrily at someone. Lawrence jumped down through the hole left by the missing floorboards, pushed aside a large stone at his feet. Beneath the stone was a dark hole. Lawrence jumped into it immediately and laid it on his feet with a splash. Having confirmed their passenger's safe drop-off, his companions slid the stone back in place, returning the passage to total darkness. A few moments later, the carriage resumed its advance as though nothing had happened. I'm surprised they're so prepared, said Lawrence, half shocked as he put his hand on the wall to his right and walked slowly forward. The tunnel had once been used to carry water, but since water pipes now connected to the marketplace, it was no longer used. That's as much as Lawrence knew about it. But the Malone Company's knowledge of the system was complete, and they had dug unauthorized extensions to the tunnels to connect various buildings. The church had also excelled at subterfuge. It was said they would use a digging of graves as a pretense to construct secret underground passageways to be used for spying on heretics and evading taxation. The church was powerful, which meant it had many enemies. Escape routes were always useful. Large towns that housed main branches of the church, or companies like Malone, were so riddled with passageways that they were scarcely different from a fell catacombs where demons lived. It was like making your living in a spider's web, a merchant had once said to Lawrence. Lawrence now understood the terrifying truth of that statement. The tunnel was dark and clammy, but still better than some of the alleys he'd walked down, which meant it was well maintained. This reassured Lawrence. The Malone Company was powerful. Ah, here it is. Lawrence heard the echoes of splashing footfalls and realized he'd reached the end. He reached out and soon felt a wall. A traveling merchant was used to being attacked by wild dogs on moonless roads. Lawrence was confident that if the worst happened, and he had to run down this tunnel, he'd be able to find this wall. Above and to the right, there was supposedly a warehouse of the general store with connections to the Medio Company. This is where Hodo was being held. Directly above Lawrence was a temporary base of operations, and apparently they'd secretly constructed a path between the two. The degree of preparation was chilling, but also might have been built to facilitate the company's expansion to other lands. Lawrence reminded himself. A distant bell sounded from somewhere. It was the signal to open the marketplace. It was also the signal to begin the plan. So undoubtedly, all hell was breaking loose above him. If they couldn't free Hodo in the time between now and the bell that signaled the beginning of the work, then they'd be in real trouble. The general goods merchant would return to his warehouse. He might have been a Medio protege, but bills came due whether or not he was housing a hostage. Commerce never stopped after all. The problem was the number of people guarding Horo. If their opponents used too many people, it'd be obvious to the Malone Company. But if they used too few, it wouldn't be an effective guard. Lawrence hoped they had allocated people with the intention of keeping Horo's location secret their top priority. The more people there were, the worse the fight would be. The attackers wouldn't be holding ropes and blindfolds, but edged weapons and clubs. This would further complicate an already difficult situation, and Lawrence desperately wanted to avoid that. Lawrence wondered how much time had passed while he was thinking. He was calm initially, but his legs now shook enough to splash the water around him. He was deeply troubled. He tried to calm his trembling legs, to no avail. He tried stretching, but it only exacerbated his worry and made his heart pound harder. He looked up, hoping the trapdoor above him would open soon. Suddenly, he froze, stricken with fear. Had he come to the wrong place? Surely not, he answered himself, making sure that he was at the correct dead end. Just then, he heard a voice above him. Rache, it said, immediately followed by the sound of floorboards cracking free of a foundation. Rache, said the voice again, to which Lawrence said, Numai. Pidion, came the reply, along with a blaze of light as a floorboard slid aside. Horo! Exclaimed Lawrence, in spite of himself, when he saw her face. Unmoved, Horo said something to the person standing next to her. She looked back down at Lawrence. How am I to get down there if you don't make way? It wouldn't be wrong to say Horo was her usual self. But when he heard her speak, Lawrence realized he wanted to see her happy face and hear her lively voice. Hopefully everybody enjoys the picture right here. Ah, crap. Oh no. Oh boy. Gotta love hotkeys that now contradict each other. He did as Horo suggested and stepped aside, waiting for her to descend. Yet what filled his heart was not the satisfaction of seeing her face, but rather disappointment at missing her joyful voice. Of course, he knew it was nothing more than wishful thinking, and said nothing, but once Horo descended and looked up to receive a bundle from above, paying him not the slightest heed, the discontent in his heart grew stronger. What are you daydreaming about? Here, this is for you. Take it and let's go. What? Oh. Lawrence held the bundle that was shoved at him and headed down the tunnel as it pushed. Something jingled in the bundle. They must have stolen some valuables to give the appearance of thieves. Soon another person descended from the trapdoor, whereupon it shut. The tunnel was completely dark again. That was the signal to move. Lawrence said nothing to Horo and began walking. They would turn right at the end of the passage, peeling along the left-hand wall until reaching its end. They would climb out of the tunnel and into the carriage that awaited them there, to be taken to another underground passage. Walking the tunnel wordlessly, they finally reached their destination. Lawrence climbed the ladder that had been prepared and knocked 3 times against the ceiling. If the escort failed to make the rendezvous, they would have to take a different route. But just as the possibility crossed Lawrence's mind, a hole opened up in the ceiling, and immediately above it sat the carriage. After confirming each other's identities with an exchange of Pidion, Numai, Lawrence crawled up into the carriage. Okay. I see the next ad starts in 5 minutes, so let's just go ahead and hang out for a bit. Welcome to stream, Knox. Yeah. How's everybody doing? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and update who I am lurking here. Let's lurk. Let's go ahead and lurk you. Okay. Yes, I am. Actually, we're just past this picture anyways. I'll go ahead and take that off. While I'm sitting here, would you like to be invited to the room so you can find it? Are you on VR chat currently? All good. Okay. Fucking love this world, bro. No, you're good, Nox. You're good. Oh. Crap. Okay. Okay. Da-da-da. That was when I got that. Okay. I mean, if it sounds good. Let's go ahead and here. Social. Online friends. Then send invite. There you go. Okay. Hi there, Nox. Hi there.
I may have to hold on. I'm gonna have to meet you in game because otherwise it's gonna be one hell of an echo.
Yeah, no, you're good. You are a very bright character.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Oh, still.
You're looking at my fallback. You can't actually see my avatar. What the hell?
Let's see. There you go. There you go. There you are.
Much better.
Ah.
Yeah, if I remember right, the fallbacks are for people who are on VR, so they have something to look at.
Ah, fair enough.
I'm surprised you're not sitting down.
Eh. Better view here. Otherwise, it's...
I mean, fair.
And it's not a very big room, so it's not a whole lot of things I could actually look around at. So.
I like it.
Yeah, I think I already showed you the cherry blossom one, so.
You did.
Okay.
That one was really pretty.
Yeah, if I didn't find this is where I would have been reading at that cherry blossom one.
I'm glad you found this one.
Okay. Ads are done, so I will go ahead and continue. And queue up another snooze. Just buy more time. I'm gonna use every available snooze I have. So. Well, still, glad I was able to get you here.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Looks like you made it safely, said the Malone Company employee as he pulled Hodo up. he was understandably surprised to see her wolf ears. Business is full of surprises, he said with a smile, sliding the large cobblestone back into its original position. There was another with us, said Lawrence. He'll be collecting the ladder and emerging elsewhere, said the employee. Once he's delivered the information about those Medio rascals to our friends, he'll leave the city. The almost frightening efficiency was due to their daily execution and refinement of plans and counterplans. Once the employee replaced the carriage floorboards, he said a quick "good luck to you" and took Lawrence and Hodo's bundles before exiting the cart. At the employee's signal, the driver started the carriage moving. So far, everything was going according to plan. Everything except for Hodo's reaction, that is. I'm so glad you're alright, was all Lawrence could manage. He could say no more to Hodo, who sat opposite him, unfolding a strip of cloth that had been around her neck in an attempt to cover her ears. She only replied after finishing a few adjustments to the fit of her makeshift hood. It's good that I'm alright, is it? Lawrence wanted to say yes, but the words caught in his throat. Hodo was glaring at him as if she were about to bite his head off. Perhaps she wasn't well. Say my name, then. If she could shout like that, she wasn't in the condition Lawrence feared. Still, her vehemence made her seem twice her normal size, and he flinched at it. Hodo? Hodo the Wise Wolf. It sounded like she was a threatening growl, but Lawrence had no idea what she was angry about. If she wanted an apology, he was ready to apologize, 100 times over. She'd been a decoy for him after all. Or had something happened to her that she couldn't say? I can remember every single person that's ever shamed me in my life, and now I must add another name to that list. Yours. Something had happened to her. Still, her anger seemed different from the manner of girls he had seen in villages that had been taken by thugs or brigands. If he'd said something foolish, it would only be throwing oil on the fire of her rage. Thus, the silence grew longer, and perhaps the silence itself began to irk her, because she rose from her seat and closed in on Lawrence. Her white clenched fist trembled. There was nowhere for Lawrence to run. Hodo stood directly in front of him. Their heads were the same height, which lent Hodo's level gaze an incredibly penetrating quality. She opened her small fist and grabbed the chest of Lawrence's shirt. Her strength matched her appearance. Lawrence hadn't imagined her grip would be so weak. Again, he noticed how long her eyelashes were. You told me, didn't you? You told me you'd come for me. Lawrence nodded. And I utterly believed you would come. Just thinking about it so frustrating. Just then, Lawrence came to a sharp realization, as if waking from a dream. You're a man, aren't you? You should have been in the front fighting tooth and nail. But you were in that hole in the ground, and you let me make a fool of myself. But you were unhurt, right? Asked Lawrence, interrupting her. Hodo sneered at him, displeased. She hesitated for some time before finally nodding, as if forced to drink something very unpleasant. Hodo had probably been blindfolded. She may have mistaken whoever came for her aid as for Lawrence and said something meant for him alone. That was probably why she felt and blamed him for such needless shame. The realization made Lawrence happy. He knew that if he'd be the one to rescue her, she would have shown the expression he longed to see. Slowly putting his arms around Hodo, who was still gripping his shirt, he drew her closer. Hodo resisted a bit, irritated, but soon relented. The once angry-looking ears that were clearly visible underneath her makeshift hood now drooped. A mildly sulky expression replaced her original anger. Though he might travel the world and amass a great fortune, the one thing that Lawrence could never have was right here. I see what you said there, Knox. Fucking brat. I know. I'll raise the fucking price. I know yesterday Ray tried getting me to do an AUTA because she has a guest redeem. Make a guest do it. Nope. Not when I'm being recorded. I'm glad you're all right, he said. The eyes that flashed in anger only a moment earlier threatened to close. Hodo nodded, her lips slightly pouting. So long as you carry that wheat with you, I'll not die. Hodo poked his breast pocket without moving his arms away. Poor girl. There is a kind of suffering no close. For a girl, there is a kind of suffering no easier than death. Lawrence took Hodo's hand, and Hodo drew near to him, resting her chin on his shoulder. He felt her weight intensely, heavier than a burlap sack full of wheat. I am so lovely that even human males fall for me. Not that one of them is fit to be my mate, said Hodo mischievously. When she finally released Lawrence, she wore her usual grin. If they try to touch me, I just remind them that they might lose a limb, or worse. They'd pale at that. Oh yes. She chuckled, her sharp fangs visible behind her pink lips. It was true. Anyone would falter at such a sight. But there was an exception, she added, her delight vanishing. This was a new anger, a quiet anger, Lawrence thought. Who do you think was there among those who captured me? Her expression was a height of disgust. She bared her fangs, slightly enraged. Lawrence unconsciously let go of her hand. Who was there? Who was it that could so enrage Hodo Perhaps someone from her past? Hodo wrinkled her nose as Lawrence considered. She spoke. It was Yare. You remember him, no doubt. That... Once. Hi there, Vacant. First time chat. How are you doing? I was listening to a streamer who sings, and I get... Oh no. Oh shit. Oh, did they hit... Oh, they must have all... I hate Twitch. Aw. I know I try to split up my ads as much as I can. Like, I don't want people to get hit with pre-roll ads. So I kind of set it where I could. But still. Nice to have you here. Hopefully you enjoyed the book. I'm essentially an audiobook right now. So. Like, I know for me, I still have the 3-minute ads, but I split them up into 1.5-minute sections. Every single snooze that I have available to me, I am currently using. I know the next ad appears to be playing in about 19 minutes. It could be 9 because it's like 10-second or 15-second ads, but yeah, no, I get what you mean. Yeah, no, like if you guys have access to like an ad block or something, I feel no ill will to that. I'd rather have you see. We're 9 30-second ones. Holy shit. That's 4.5 minutes right there. God damn. But even still. That's more than a whole song right there. Well, an average song is what, 3 minutes? No, no, you're good. You're good. Happy to have you here. If you enjoy the vibes, this is more chill than I normally am. So, feel free to follow. And this is what you can expect every Sunday. So. It was Yare. You remember him, no doubt. That can't be, he was going to say. But Lawrence never got that far because something else suddenly occurred to him. That's it! The figure back in the Medio Company. It's Count Arendot. Otto had been ready to vent her spleen at Lawrence, but now her eyes widened in surprise at his outburst. As someone with huge tracts with wheat, he can request payment in whatever coin he wants. And if he could arrange favorable duties for the wheat, it'd be like a gift from the heaven for the Medio Company, the Count, or even the villagers. Of course! That explains why there was someone there who knew you were a wolf. Odo looked at Lawrence blankly. But Lawrence didn't notice her as he leapt to the window and faced the carriage drivers. He opened a small window, and one of them leaned down to listen. Did you hear what I just said? I did indeed. Oh no, why are you screaming, Leah? The one backing the Medio Company is Count Arendot. The Count and the merchants that deal with his wheat are the reason the silver is being collected. Please inform Mr. Marhite. It shall be done, he said, and jumped immediately off the cart and took off running. Lawrence imagined that the horses carrying the negotiators bound for Trenny had already left. But if the negotiations were at all prolonged, they would be able to propose additional conditions, knowing the source of Medio Company's silver meant it might be possible for a company with the reputation and resources of Malone to snatch the deal right from under them. If he'd figured out this earlier, perhaps Hodo's capture could have been avoided and this entire transaction could have gone much more smoothly. It frustrated Lawrence to think about it, but there was nothing to do about it now. It was good they discovered the truth when they had. I do not follow you. Lawrence returned to his seat, arms folded as the possibilities raced through his head. When he heard Hodo's complaint, that's when he realized he cut her off mid-sentence. Explaining it all could take some time, but let's just say your information was the key to figuring everything out. Huh? Lawrence knew that it would not take much effort on Hodo's part to understand what was going on, but she didn't seem inclined to bother. Hodo simply nodded her head, uninterested, and closed her eyes. She seemed irritated at the sudden change of the subject. Lawrence chided himself for finding her sulking as charming as he did. It might have been a trap she set for him after all, to demonstrate how irritated she was at the interruption. I'm sorry I interrupted you, said Lawrence, by way of an honest apology. She opened a single eye briefly to glance at him, then brushed off his apology with a small, "It's nothing." Undaunted, Lawrence continued speaking. Hodo was either childish or cunning, one extreme or the other. Yare should still be locked away in the storehouse for the Harvest Festival. If he's in the city, that means he's involved in the deal. He's acquainted with the merchants that buy wheat from the village, and the village leader trusts him to do the dealing. Also, the bulk of the wheat sales are conducted immediately after the festival, said Lawrence. Her eyes closed. Hodo seemed to consider this, finally opening both eyes at length. Her mood appeared to have brightened. Ew. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words. He must have heard my name from that boy Zarin. That Yare was wearing clothes far too fine for any villager, and thought rather highly of himself. He must be deeply connected to the Medio Company. Did you talk to him? Just a bit, said Hodo. She rid herself of her last anger with a sigh. With the last of her anger with a sigh. Perhaps it was a recollection of her conversation with Yare that had angered her so. Lawrence wondered what he could have possibly said to her. Hodo had no love for the villagers. That was true enough. But she had decided to leave. He didn't think her grudge went any further than that. As Lawrence pondered these things, Hodo spoke. I don't know how many years I lived there. Maybe as many as there are hairs on my tail. Hodo's tail swished beneath her coat. I am Hodo the Wise Wolf. In order to provide the greatest harvest, there were years I had to let the land rest. So there were seasons of meager harvest. There are seasons of meager harvest too. Still, The fields I lent my aid to should have been more productive than others over time. This was the second time she'd explained this, but Lawrence nodded for her to continue. The villagers did treat me as a god of the harvest, but not out of respect. It was akin to a desire to control me. Do they not chase after the person who cuts the last sheaf of wheat, after all? Do they not bind him with rope? I've heard they lock the harvester away in a storehouse for a week with treats to eat and all the tools they'll use in the following year. The pork and duck were tasty, 'tis true. It was an amusing reflection. The tales were apparently true. Tales of people locked up for a week only to be released with no recollection of having eaten all the food. And the perpetrator sat right in front of him. The vague fear that accompanied these stories now possessed a concrete form. The image of Hodo in her wolf form, devouring duck and pork. Still, said Hodo seriously as she set out to explain the reason for her anger. Lawrence composed himself. What do you think Yare said to me? Hodo bit her lip, momentarily at a loss for words. She rubbed the corner of her eye with her finger and continued. He said he heard my name from Zarin, and it made him wonder. It is pathetic, but I was so happy to hear that. Hodo's head hung low, and tears overflowed from her eyes. Then he told me that the days they had to worry about my mood were over. That they need no longer fear my fickle nature. That since the church was already after me, they should just hand me over and be done with the old ways for good. Thank you for the head pats. Lawrence knew about Count Arundot's exchanges with natural philosophers and how he introduced new agricultural techniques to boost crop yield. Even the most devout prayer must eventually show results, or the spirit or god responsible will be discarded. The people will begin to find the idea of depending on their own efforts much more appealing. If new farming methods brought prosperity where prayer failed, it was not surprising that the people would start to believe that the god or spirit to whom they prayed was capricious, unreliable. Lawrence himself sometimes described the vicissitudes of fortune to some inscrutable god. She had said her reason for staying in the village, that she got along with the villagers, that her friend from long ago had asked her to see to the harvest. She had always meant for the fields to prosper, but after she oversaw the land for centuries, people began denying her existence. And now to hear that they wished to be rid of her? How must she feel? Tears fell freely from Hodo's eyes. Her face showed a mixture of frustration and sorrow. She said she hated being alone. When a god forced people to worship it, perhaps it was only out of loneliness. If Hodo's predicament elicited such wild-eyed notions in Lawrence, it was hardly surprising that it also made him want to wipe her tears away. doesn't really matter in the end. I want to return to the Northland, so I must leave one way or another. If they have no love for me, I'll simply kick the dust from my hind legs and leave. It will be a cleaner break that way. Still, I can't just leave like this. She seemed to have stopped crying, but Lawrence could still hear the sniffling as he stroked her head gently. He smiled as broadly as he could manage and spoke. We are merchants. As long as we profit, we triumph. We laugh when money comes in, and cry only in bankruptcy. And we will laugh, he said. Hodo glanced up momentarily, then down again, tears falling from her eyes once more. She nodded, looked back up. Lawrence wiped away her tears a second time, and Hodo took a deep breath. She wiped the lingering tears from the corners of her eyes, almost violently. For several moments afterward, her long, damp eyelashes sparkled. Hodo sighed. I feel better. She smudged away the final remnants of tears with one hand, and looking sheepish over her outburst, lightly punched Lawrence in the chest with a small fist. It's been centuries since I've had a proper conversation. My emotions are far too fragile. I've cried before you twice now. But I would have done it even if you had not been there. Do you understand what I'm saying? Lawrence raised his hands and shrugged. You're telling me not to misunderstand. Mm-hmm. Hodo happily rubbed her balled-up fist around on Lawrence's chest. She was being almost unbearably dear just then, and Lawrence couldn't help but tease her a bit. I only brought you along to help me make money anyways. Until the Malone Company concludes its negotiations, our job is to escape. Having someone crying and carrying on in the middle, that is just a burden. So regardless of who is crying in front of me, Lawrence could proceed no further with his jape. Hodo looked at him as if stricken. That's not fair, he grumbled. Female privilege. Lawrence poked her head lightly for being so shameless. The window by the driver's seat opened, as if the driver had been waiting for the opportune moment. He smiled reluctantly. We have arrived. Are you quite finished with your conversation? We surely are, said Lawrence, with affected enthusiasm as he removed the carriage floorboards. Beside him, Hodo snickered madly. It's true, then, that people who talk of profit are rather odd, said the driver. What? Do you mean my ears? Said Hodo mischievously. The driver laughed. She'd gotten the better of him. It makes me want to return to my traveling merchant days, looking at you two. I wouldn't if I were you, said Lawrence, shoving the stone and confirming the tunnel was the right one. He then climbed back into the carriage and let Hodo go in first. You might end up running into someone like her. But a wagon bench is too wide for just one. I wish to be so lucky. Lawrence chuckled. Nearly any merchant would feel the same way. Without another word, he descended into the tunnel. Had he continued, he was sure he had embarrassed himself. In any case, Hodo had awaited him. Surely I am the unfortunate one, to be picked up by the likes of you, said Hodo, there in the darkness once the driver replaced the stone, and drove away with a quiet rumble. Lawrence thought about how to turn the tables when the sound of a horse's neigh echoed faintly above him, but ultimately decided that no matter what he said, Hodo would win in the end. He gave in. You're too clever by half. 'Tis what makes me so charming, said Hodo, as if that was the most obvious thing in the world. What could he say to that?
Hello there.
I see the next ad starts momentarily. Thank you for the follow, Chainsaw. Minnesota Chainsaw. How are you? I'm doing well. Apologize for the ad. It should be starting right now. Well, still. Also, Nox, I took your suggestion. I found out how to download my VODs, so I will be starting to upload those to YouTube over the course of the week. I think what I'll end up doing is I will probably upload these. I'm gonna have to catch up, obviously. But I think I will start uploading these ones in particular 1 week after the initial stream.
I don't know why I'm typing to you. I can just talk to you right here.
Yes, you could.
But that's awesome though for you to be taking those up onto YouTube. If you need help with editing, let me know. I mean, like, you know, cutting out like conversation and stuff like that, just to stick to the story.
I mean, in that regard, you can probably upload 2 versions, one with just the audiobook itself, and then one with just the raw VOD.
Oh, there you go. God, I hate hearing my own voice. What the hell?
I really am a strange streamer that actually enjoys my own voice.
Nothing strange about that. There's a couple people I know that like their own voice, so I mean, hey.
It's not the singing part. Not a fan of the
Person,
singing.
Your model is really good. Like, I can even see it breathing.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to when she does the second version, because I'm working with the same artist. Cat, imagine liking your own voice.
Artist, you mean for the model? I was talking about your VR chat model, but that's
Oh.
true.
That, I'll eventually get a VR, like a proper VR model.
Well, hey, if I keep practicing, I mean, might be able to get you in. I mean, look at me.
Which actually, Cat, on that note, Nox's model.
Hi.
Totally not giving everybody an upskirt.
Well, stop looking. I'll change my pose. Hang on.
Nah, you're good.
Is that better?
That's a little better. Like, I understand you're wearing shorts, but given how everything was clipping, it almost looked like an upskirt. Oh, apparently Cat says smash.
Oh my god. Hey!
I mean, yeah, smash.
Well, thanks.
I mean, to be fair, I think I did say smash
I can't wait to get to
the first time that we were in a big group call. So, not like anything changed there.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. My god, that happened so long ago.
That's only 5 months ago. 5 months ago next week.
Was it really 5 months? I felt like it was longer.
It's like December 15th, give or take.
Oh shit. Yeah, that
Okay.
was absolutely insane, that whole thing, the podcast. There were
Oh.
so many people in it.
13. Yeah.
Yes, I know. I don't think I can do that again.
Nope. That's why I split up the private stream chats in my Discord. So if anybody else wants to stream in my Discord, they can use one of those if they don't have their own.
Makes sense.
But still, that ad was at a very inopportune time. I'm less than a page from the end of chapter 5.
Oh no.
But still. Let's see. You're too clever by half. And 'tis what makes me so charming, said Horo, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. What could he say to that? No, it's because I'm always searching for a retort that I fall into her trap, he thought to himself. He decided to take the most unexpected route. Lawrence coughed quietly. Then he looked away. Well, yes, you are quite charming, he said in the shyest, most bashful tone he could manage. There was no way she would anticipate such an answer. He was certain. He forced himself not to laugh in the darkness. As he expected, she was silent. Now for the finishing blow, he thought. As he turned to face her, the softest sensation filled his hand. His mind went blank at the realization that it was Hodo's small, impossibly soft hand. I'm so happy. Lawrence's heart couldn't help but stirring at those sweet, reticent, girlish words. As if to punctuate it, her hand squeezed his ever so slightly, as if she were embarrassed with her admission of happiness. So it was Hodo who dealt the finishing blow. You really are an adorable boy, she said, amused at her own joke. Which was even more irritating. Lawrence wasn't angry with her for saying so, but rather himself for giving her the chance. And yet, he didn't think of letting her hand go, which felt somehow pathetic. And Hodo's holding his hand made him feel unreasonably pleased. Too clever by half, he murmured to himself. It was quiet in the tunnel. Then it filled with echoes of Hodo's giggling. Yeah, that's literally how close I was to the end of chapter 5. Which Knox, a realization I had when I was reading during the first time. I am now hearing Panda's fucking...
Yeah?
I'm hearing Panda's voice as I'm reading Hodo's parts. Which...
I think in the last stream she was reading with you.
I would love to have somebody reading this with me, but no, it's like... In my head, like, when I'm reading Hodo's parts, I'm hearing her voice in my head.
Aw.
Because you've heard how she acted in the stream with me. Tell me she would not act like that.
I remember. Oh, totally.
It's already bad enough that I see myself as Lawrence. Like, I see a lot of myself in him. But
I'd head pat you if I could move my arms.
Ugh. Okay, beginning in chapter 6. Thank you for the headband, Knox.
There we go, I gotcha.
Hodo stopped short, surely not because the rat that scampered away with a squeak at her feet. There, in the inky darkness, Lawrence turned to Hodo. He wouldn't lose her, as even now he held her hand. What is it? Do you not feel a stirring in the air? Lawrence wasn't sure exactly in the city where they were, but the scent of clean water in the air suggested it was somewhere near the marketplace. He could at least tell they were well away from the river that flowed alongside the city. Leah, no, Leah, you don't need to bonk. I saw you type bonk. You don't need to bonk. Thank you. It was easy to imagine the countless people in horse-drawn carts passing above them. A bit of movement in the air was hardly surprising. Isn't it coming from above? He asked. No, said Hodo. You could tell she was glancing this way and that, but they were in a tunnel. There were only two directions to go. If I had whiskers, I'd be able to tell. Are you sure it's not your imagination? Thank you for petting the boys. No, there's a sound. I can hear it. Water? Sound of splashes. Lawrence's eyes widened at his instinctive thought. They were being pursued. It's from ahead. This won't do. We must retreat. Before Hodo could finish, Lawrence turned on his heel and began running. Hodo scrambled to follow him. There are no forks in this path, yes? The path we were taking was direct. Going the other way, there's one branch. Take that, it becomes a complicated labyrinth. I don't know that even I could keep us from getting lost here. Oops, said Hodo as she stopped in her tracks again. Their hands came apart at the sudden stop. Lawrence stumbled. As he hurried to turn around, it seemed like Hodo was facing back the way they'd come. You cover your ears. Why? Even if we run, they'll catch us. They've loosed hounds on us. If they were being pursued down a straight path by well-trained hounds, it was hopeless. Odo could see quite well in the dark. But the dogs had their noses and ears, and they had no weapons with which to fend the beast off, save the silver dagger Lawrence always carried. They did something rather hound-like, though. They did have something rather hound-like, though. Hodo the Wise Wolf. So foolish sounding, that baying, said Hodo. Lawrence could now faintly hear the hound's cries. May have only been the overlapping echoes, but from the sound, Lawrence guessed there were at least two animals. What was Hodo planning? I'm not certain what I'll do if they're too stupid to understand this. Anyway, cover your ears. Lawrence did as he was told and plugged his ears. He'd figured it out. Hodo was going to howl. Hodo took a long, deep breath. It lasted so long, Lawrence began to wonder where all that air was going. There was a brief pause, and then she unleashed an earth-shaking howl. The force of the great noise was enough to send shivers down his hands and set his skin on his face trembling. It seemed as though the tunnel was about to collapse. The wolf howl was enough to strike fear into the heart of the strongest man. Lawrence forgot it was Hodo howling and curled up into a ball. The merchant remembered being chased across the plains by packs of wolves. They possessed overwhelming numbers. Knowledge of the terrain and physical strength no human could hope to match. They would bring all three to bear and attack. And the howl was their signal. That was why some villages, when stricken with plague, would imitate a wolf's howl to drive away the disease. Hodo coughed, jaggedly. My throat. Lawrence heard her coughing once the howls had subsided, and took his hands down from his ears. It wasn't surprising that this great howl from such a small throat came with a price. An apple. I want an apple. You can have as many as you want once we're free. What are the hounds? They've turned tail and ran. Then we should do likewise. They'll know we're here now. But they'll know where we are now. Do you know the way? More or less. Before starting to run, Lawrence held his hand out for Hodo, who gripped it tightly. Ensuring they wouldn't be separated, Lawrence ran. It was about then that he had heard the voices of their pursuers. Still, how did they find us? Hodo asked. I doubt they knew exactly where we were. They probably came underground after being able to find us above and happened to run into us. They knew exactly where we were. They would have cornered us by now. I see. You're quite right. Directly ahead of them, muffled voices could be distinguished. Then a faint ray of light penetrated the dark tunnel. That's where they'd first entered the passage. Lawrence had never been so optimistic as to think the Malone Company would come to the rescue. He drew a sharp breath as a realization washed over him, like a splash of cold water, and quickened his pace. Then a voice echoed down the passage. The Malone Company has betrayed you. There's no point in running. As if to avoid the voices, they turned down a single branch, and behind them came the same words. Lawrence ignored them and continued to run, but Hodo was uneasy. Sounds like we've been sold out. And for a high price, no doubt. As long as you're here, the Malone Company will lose a branch at the very least. I see. There's a high price indeed. If they were truly betrayed, Marhite would have been forced to put the entire branch on the line. If he'd really done so, he must have been planning to keep the branch's money and escape by himself to some far-off land. But it seemed unlikely that the huge Malone Company would let that happen. Nor did he take Marhite for that kind of man. For the kind of man to run. Which meant the pursuers were simply lying on the spot. But to someone unused to such tactics, like Hodo, it could be effective. Hodo nodded her head to indicate understanding, although her grip on his hand grew faintly tighter. Right, we turn right here. Wait. Lawrence stopped immediately after rounding the corner. At the end of the slightly winding tunnel, a lantern swayed. There they are, cried a voice. Lawrence immediately took Hodo's hand again and ran back along the path they'd first taken. Their pursuers broke into a run as well. But their footfalls did not reach Lawrence's ears. Do you know the way? I do, it's all right, said Lawrence impatiently, but not because he was out of breath. The paths were strangely complicated, and all he could remember from what the Malone Company employees told him were the paths that connected the entrance and exit. It wasn't a lie to say he knew the way, but it wasn't the truth either. In which way to turn left or right, and after how many intersections? Then it was true. If not, it was a lie. His head filled with strange illusions that threatened to blank everything out. The sound of a column of mice running through the forest, tripping over the rubble of a crumbled stone wall. Traveling merchants had to remember complicated figures about how much they owed, how much they were owed, so they tend to have confidence in their memory. But Lawrence's confidence lasted for only a moment after he asserted it. The twisting tunnels were just too complicated. Another dead end. They'd gone a short distance after turning right at a T-junction before reaching the end. Lawrence kicked at the wall, breathing heavily. His actions made his worry clear. But Hodo, her breathing also ragged, simply squeezed his hand tighter. The Medio Company had apparently decided it was important to capture both of them. It had sent ample manpower to accomplish it. Their footfalls and shouted voices echoed through the halls. There were so many that even Hodo couldn't be sure of their number. The companions' anxiety made them imagine a great swarm of men pursuing them, more numerous than ants. Damn. I'll have to head back. I don't remember anything else. If they pushed ahead into an unknown passage, there would be no going back. Lawrence's memories were already quite shaky, but seeing Hodo nod her assent, he didn't say so, not wanting her to feel any more uncertain. Can you still run? He asked. Lawrence was a hale and hearty traveling merchant, and despite his fatigue, he knew he could still run. But Hodo could only nod her head in answer. Perhaps her human body wasn't as capable as her wolf form. Just a bit, she said, hastily as she gasped for air. Let's find a place to... Lawrence began. He was going to say rest, but he caught Hodo's glance, and the word never got from his throat. Her pupils glowed keenly in the darkness, every inch the forest predator scanning its surroundings. Heartened to have someone like Hodo as his companion, Lawrence quieted his breathing and listened carefully. Crunch, crunch, came the sound of their pursuers' cautious footsteps. From where Lawrence was standing, it sounded as if they were coming from a passage that led off to the right, some distance ahead. They'd taken the path that was now directly behind them. If they doubled back on it, many possible paths branched off of it. They hoped to guess the timing and run back, then escape down one of those paths. Crunch, crunch, came the footsteps as the sound grew closer. There was still a wall between them and the source of the noise, which was encouraging. But the footfalls were incessant. It was as though the Medio men were purposefully causing commotion, as they talked in some sort of incomprehensible code. Lawrence felt as though they'd already fallen into the trap. Their pursuers needed only toss out a net to capture them. He gulped painfully, gauging the timing for their sprint. He'd hoped to run as soon as there was another shout from the Medio Company people. It was not a long wait. Another sound came from the direction of the footsteps. A sneeze. Lawrence took this as a blessing from the gods, grabbed Hodo's hand tightly in preparation to run. Achoo! It sounded as though whoever sneezed realized his mistake and tried to muffle the sound with his hand. But it was more than enough for the two of them to begin their flight. They turned left at the first junction. Just then, something black crossed in front of their faces. Lawrence realized it was no mere rat when Hodo began to growl. What shit? Here! They're here! A small, almost child-sized clump of darkness wove this way and that before Lawrence. He felt something hot on his left cheek. He realized it was a knife wound when he put his hand to it and felt the warm wetness there. He realized that Hodo had abandoned escape and even now had her teeth in the arm of the knife-wielding attacker. Lawrence, too, lost control. Strengthened by hauling loads heavier than themselves over mountains and across plains, traveling merchants had fists as hard as silver. Lawrence put all his strength behind his right fist as he punched, hitting the man Hodo was attacking square in the face at a slightly upward angle. There was an awful splashing sound, as though a frog had just been stepped on, as Lawrence's fist connected. With his other hand, Lawrence reached out for Hodo and snagged the back of her shirt, pulling her back to him. The shadow that the fist had struck tumbled slowly backward. There's no time to say anything. Lawrence took off running, trying to find a different path. But he soon realized that the sneeze had been a ploy to flush them out. As the body hit the ground with a whump, Lawrence felt a shock, as if blood in his veins suddenly reversed direction. The moment they had tried to run, a blade thrust directly into Lawrence. Oh, holy God, forgive me of my sins. Hearing his opponent's words, Lawrence realized this man intended to kill him. There in the darkness, his assailant held his breath, surely thinking he had in fact slain his target. But the gods had not yet abandoned Lawrence. The knife found purchase in his left arm, just above the wrist. Before you think about your sins, said Lawrence, raising his leg and delivering a vicious kick to the man's thigh. Regret your daily deeds. The man dropped soundlessly, and Lawrence grabbed Hodo's sleeve with his right hand and sprinted past him. The sounds of the Medio Company closing in echoed all around them. They veered down a path to the left and then went immediately right, not because of some plan, or because Lawrence remembered the way. They simply ran. Stopping was not an option. Lawrence's left arm felt heavy, as if they were sinking into a swamp. And it burned as though impaled on a piece of red-hot iron. His left hand was cold, perhaps from the blood that flowed freely from the wound in his arm. He would not be able to run much farther. Lawrence had been wounded several times in his travels. He knew the limits of his own body. It was hard to tell how far they'd come in the darkness. The confused echoes of their pursuers eroded his fading consciousness, like rain over grasslands. When even their pursuers started to sound distant, he had no energy left with which to worry about Hodo. He didn't know how long he'd be able to keep going. Lawrence! He heard someone calling his name. He wondered if it was a Grim Reaper already. Lawrence, are you alright? He returned to himself with a start, realizing that he was leaning against a wall of his... leaning against the wall of the tunnel. What a relief. You weren't moving when I called to you. I'm okay. Just a little sleepy, said Lawrence. Lawrence wasn't sure if he succeeded in smiling. An irritated Hodo hit him in the chest. Pull yourself together. We're almost there. We're almost where? Did you not hear me? I can smell the warmth of the sun ahead. There must be a way to the surface close by. Lawrence had no memory of hearing this at all, but he nodded, righting himself, staggered forward. He realized his arm had been bandaged with cloth. This bandage? Tore my sleeves off to patch you up. You didn't notice? No, of course I noticed. I'm fine. Lawrence made sure to give a reassuring smile. Hodo said nothing. When they continued walking, though, she led the way. Just a bit farther. We'll take this passage, then turn right, and... She began taking Lawrence's hand, but then stopped short. He could tell why. More footsteps behind them. Hurry, hurry, said Hodo hoarsely. Lawrence quickened his pace, feeling near the end of his strength. Although their pursuers were getting closer, they were still some distance off. As long as they could climb to the surface, Lawrence imagined they'd be able to convince the citizenry to help them, given his condition. The Medio Company probably wouldn't want a scene in front of so many witnesses. As long as he took the opportunity to contact the Malone Company, Hodo's escape would be enough. The top priority now was to meet with the Malone people again and re-strategize. Lawrence mulled this over as he heaved his body forward, though it seemed to grow heavier by the second. At length, just as Hodo said, he saw light ahead. The light shone from the upper right down to the left. The footsteps behind them grew closer, but it looked as if they were going to make it. Otto pulled harder on Lawrence's arm to hurry him forward. He tried his best to keep up. At the end of the path, they turned right. It goes to the surface, just a little farther. Vitality had returned to Hodo's voice, and Lawrence pressed forward, encouraged. The prey had escaped the hunter by the slimmest of margins. Of that, Lawrence was certain. That is, until he heard Hodo's voice on the verge of tears. No, she said. Lawrence looked up. Even when he looked down, the light stung his eyes, which had adjusted to total darkness. It took him a few moments to focus. But once he did, he understood the reason for Hodo's dismay. Perhaps it was left over from when those tunnels supplied water. There was an unused well there, with light stabbing down to a round opening in the ceiling. But the hole in the ceiling was too high. Lawrence stretched and he could barely touch the ceiling. But the opening was even higher than that. Without a rope or a ladder, it was simply impossible for the two of them to escape. Lawrence and Hodo fell silent, despairing like lone sharks, looking down the long path to heaven. Then, as if to confirm they were well and truly cornered, the source of the footsteps behind them rounded the corner. "Found them!" a voice cried, at which point the pair finally looked up. Hodo looked up at Lawrence, who drew his dagger with his good right hand. With the movement so slow, it was as if he was underwater, blocked the path between her and their pursuers. "Back up." Lawrence planned to advance, but his legs had no more strength left in them. He was rooted in the spot, unable to take another step. "You can't. You're through," said Hodo. "Hardly. I can still move." Lawrence managed in a nonchalant tone, turning to look at her over his shoulder. Would have been impossible, though. "Fool, you don't need my ears to know that's a lie," snapped Hodo. Lawrence ignored her and fixed his gaze straight ahead. He saw 5 Medio men at a glance. Each wielded a knife or staff, and more footsteps signaled reinforcements on the way. Despite their overwhelming advantage, the men did not converge, choosing instead to stop at a corner and scrutinize the pair. Lawrence imagined they were waiting for backup, though 5 men were more than sufficient to take both him and his companion. Lawrence was obviously in no shape for a fight, and Hodo was just a girl. But the men held fast. At length, more arrived. The first 5 looked back, then stepped aside. Lawrence made a sound as a figure rounded the corner. Lawrence, too, nearly spoke. The man rounding the corner was none other than Yare. "I wondered, given the description we got," he said. "But to think it really was you, Lawrence." Unlike the residents who lived within the city walls, or the dusty, sweaty merchants that traveled between them, Yare wore the colors of the sun and the earth and looked almost as sad as he spoke. I'm just as surprised as Lawrence. Most of Pazlo thinks only a sickle or hoe at the mention of metal. To think they'd be involved in such a grand silver scheme. There are a few who understand this transaction, said Yade, as if it wasn't his village at all. Which was understandable given his attire. The depth of his connection to the Medio Company was self-evident in its color and texture. A humble farmer would never be able to afford such finery. Let's catch up later, shall we? We have no time for it now. Come now, Yade. I've come all the way to your village and still wasn't able to see you. Ah, but you met someone else, didn't you? Yade glanced past Lawrence to Hodo behind him. I wouldn't have thought it possible, but she really is right out of the fairy tales. The wolf spirit incarnate, responsible for harvest, great and poor. Lawrence felt Hodo flinch, but didn't turn to look at her. Hand her over, Yade demanded. We'll give her to the church and put the old ways to rest forever. He took a step forward. Lawrence, if we have her, we can destroy the Malone Company. And once we've abolished the wheat tariff, the wheat in my village will be hugely profitable. And we who sell it, rich men. Nothing is so profitable as an untaxed commodity. Yade was 2 paces from them when Hodo grasped Lawrence's shirt. Despite his dizziness, he could feel her hands trembling. Lawrence, our village still remembers that you bought wheat from us when we were suffering under heavy taxation. It would be no trouble to give you purchasing priority now. And we're friends, nay? Surely as a merchant, you can figure out gain and loss. Yade's words sank slowly into Lawrence's consciousness. Selling untaxed wheat would be like plucking gold from the stalks. If he took Yade up on his offer, his fortunes would surely rise. When he'd save enough, he could open up a shop in Patio. With those wheat options as his weapon, he'd continue to expand his business. Yade promised the fulfillment of his dreams. Oh, I can figure gain and loss all right, said Lawrence. Oh, Lawrence, said Yade brightly, his arms wide in welcome. Hodo tightened her grip on Lawrence's shirt. Lawrence used the last of his strength to turn back to Hodo, who looked up at him. Her amber eyes saddened as she looked at him. She soon closed them. Lawrence slowly turned back around. However, a merchant must always honor his contracts. Lawrence? Asked Yade suspiciously. Lawrence continued. As fate would have it, the strange girl I picked up wishes to return to the Northlands. I have a contract to accompany her there. Breaking that contract is something I cannot do, Yade. You... A shocked Hodo began as Lawrence stared down Yade. Yade shook his head in disbelief, sighing deeply, then looked at Lawrence. In that case, I have no choice but to fulfill my contract. He raised his right hand and gathered Medio henchmen, who'd only watched until that point, took aggressive stances. I'm sorry our friendship was a short one, Lawrence. A traveling merchant is always saying goodbye, replied Lawrence. You can kill the man. Bring the girl alive. Yade's voice was cold now, like a different person entirely. The Medio lackeys advanced. Lawrence held the dagger fast in his right hand, but he was still unable to take a step either forward or back. If he could somehow buy them just a bit more time, the Malone Company might yet come to the rescue. He clung to that hope as he waved the dagger about clumsily. In that moment, Hodo flung her arms around him. Hi there, Zeta. Thank you for the headbat. Hodo, what do you do? Her slender arms held him fast, then forced him to the ground. He'd wondered where she'd gotten the sudden strength, but then he realized it was probably because he had no power left to resist. Hodo couldn't actually support his weight, so Lawrence half fell backward, landing on his rear. The impact dislodged the knife from his hand. Lawrence reached for the dagger and tried to get up, but he couldn't manage it. Unable to support even his outstretched arm, he fell forward. Hodo, the dagger. That's enough. Hodo? She gave no response, save putting her hand to Lawrence's outstretched arm. This may hurt a bit. Please bear it. What? Lawrence failed to utter another word before Hodo undid the bandage on his left arm. It sniffed at the exposed wound. Suddenly, his memory returned. He recalled their conversation when they'd first met, when he had made her prove that she was truly a wolf. He remembered her nonchalant reply. To assume her wolf form, she needed either a bit of wheat or fresh blood. What are you doing? Hurry, take them! Yade shouted. And the Medio henchmen, whose advance had been stalled by Hodo's strange actions, regained their senses and began to close in. Hodo closed her eyes, bared her fangs, and sank them into Lawrence's wound. She's drinking his blood! Hodo opened her eyes slightly at the shout and glanced at Lawrence. He couldn't have conjectured as to his own expression, but Hodo seemed to smile sadly at him. After all, only a demon would drink blood. Don't fall back, she's only a possessed girl. Get her! Yade's extortions were of no use. The men were frozen in their tracks. Hodo slowly pulled her mouth back from Lawrence's arm. Her transformation had already begun. I'll always... She began as her long hair began to stir, transforming into animal fur. Her arms, visible through her torn sleeves, took the form of wolf paws. I'll always remember that you chose me. She cleaned the blood from the corner of her mouth with her bright red tongue rather than her hand, an image that lingered with Lawrence. Lawrence, she said, standing and facing him. She had a small, sad smile on her face as she spoke her final words. Please don't look at me. Her body grew up and out rapidly at the sound of tearing fabric, brown fur nearly exploding through it. Her wheat pouch fell to the ground among the tatters of clothing. Lawrence automatically reached out for the weed in which Hodo lived. And when he looked back up, a massive wolf stood before him. Its paws were tipped with scythe-like claws, and teeth were so large that the shape of each fang was clearly visible. It looked capable of eating a man in a single bite. The wolf was so massive that the very air around it felt heavy and hot, as if one might melt by mere proximity. In spite of that, its eyes were cool and calculating. There was no escape. Every man in the tunnel came to the same conclusion at once. Ah! The single cry was a trigger. Most of the assailants dropped their weapons and ran. Two men hurled their weapons at the wolf, mostly out of terror. The beast moved its muzzle adroitly, picking up each iron weapon in turn and crushing it between massive jaws. This was a god. In the Northlands, the word god was used to describe anything beyond a human's ability to engage. Lawrence had never understood that definition until now. And now he understood it all too well. There was nothing anyone could do to this wolf. Nothing at all. What? The two that threw their weapons made strangled exclamations and were barely worthy of the term. The wolf swatted them aside with a massive paw and ran forward, seeming almost to slide over the ground. None of you will leave here alive. A low, bestial voice echoed. The sounds of claws striking iron mingled with the cries of the felled as Lawrence frantically tried to right himself. But the massacre ended in an instant. The wolf paused, and the voice of perhaps the last man alive was audible. Gods are always like that. Always unfair. It was Yade's voice. There was no response but the sound of the colossal wolf opening its jaws. Lawrence cried out. Hodo, no! There was a snap, surely those same jaws closing. The image of Yade's torso and Hodo's fangs came unbidden to Lawrence's mind. It was unthinkable that Yade could escape. He was a bird with no chance to avoid the hound's attack. But after a few moments of silence, Hodo turned around in the narrow passageway. Her teeth were not smeared with the blood Lawrence expected. Instead, an unconscious Yade dangled helplessly from her fangs. Hodo. Lawrence murmured her name in relief, but Hodo merely dropped Yade to the ground and did not look at him. A low voice responded. The wheat. The growl suited to the great body, and Lawrence cringed to hear it. He knew it was Hodo, but he couldn't help himself. She looked straight at him. He didn't know if he'd be able to stay composed. The wolf demanded his awe. The wheat, bring it to me, repeated Hodo. Lawrence nodded and held out the pouch of wheat in his hand. And just then, Lawrence felt a heavy pressure as his body recoiled from it. Just when he saw Hodo's lip curl over her fanged jaw, he realized that he'd made a terrible mistake. That is your answer. Now the wheat. Although he knew that Hodo intended to take the wheat and leave, Her words, as if by some strange magic, compelled his arm to reach out and hand it over. But he lacked the strength to support the arm, or even hold the pouch. First, the pouch fell from his limp hand to the ground, and then his arms collapsed against him. He wouldn't be able to pick it up again. Lawrence looked at the pouch in despair. I thank you for taking care of me, said Hodo as she approached, deftly picking up the small bag in her massive jaws. Those amber eyes never once glanced at Lawrence as she backed up 1, 2, 3 steps, then turned dexterously in a small tunnel and began to walk away. The white-tipped tail that was Hodo's pride and joy caught his eye. It was magnificent as it waved sadly and receded down the passage. Lawrence shouted. His voice was so weak, it could barely be considered a shout. But he sounded with all his remaining strength. Wait. Hodo kept walking. Lawrence despised himself for recoiling at her approach earlier. How many times had she said that she hated when people regarded her with fear? But his body had reacted instinctively. Humans couldn't help that they feared the unknown. And so he had cowered before Hodo. Still, Lawrence thought. Still, he called out her name. Hodo! Shouted his hoarse voice. It was useless, he realized. And just then, Hodo stopped. This was his chance. If he couldn't change her mind here, he would never see her again. But what to say? Scenarios flitted in and out of his mind. He couldn't convincingly claim that he wasn't afraid of her. Her form still terrified him. But he wanted to stop her. He couldn't find the words to express the conflict he felt. His mind worked frantically. No doubt Hodo would have mocked him for being inarticulate as he tried to put together the words that would bring her back. How much do you think the clothes you destroyed cost? Was what he finally came up with. I don't care if you're a god or not. I'll see you pay me back. You earned but 70 silver pieces. That's not nearly enough. He yelled at her, trying to sound angry. No, he was genuinely half angry. He knew that begging her not to go would be pointless. As he was still terrified of her form, he could only conjure the single reason to prevent her from going. The grudge a merchant would bear over money is deeper than the valley, and a merchant collecting a debt is more persistent than the moon in the night sky. Lawrence put as much venom into his words as he could to convey that. He was not telling her he didn't want her to leave. He was telling her that leaving would be pointless. How many years do you think it took me to save up that much money? I'll follow you. I'll follow you all the way back to the Northlands if I have to. Lawrence's voice echoed through the underground tunnels for a while before finally fading. Hodo stood there a while, licked her large tail. Was she going to turn around? Lawrence's strength finally failed him, and he collapsed to the ground, even as his chest filled with nervous impatience. Hodo began walking again. Her paws pattered softly against the floor of the passage. Tup, tup. Lawrence felt his vision grow dim. I'm not crying, the merchant told himself as his consciousness sank into eternity. Okay, that's the end of chapter 6, and the last of the book is the epilogue. I'll wait until the next ad goes through. But, Azita, I'm glad you're able to make it. And hello, Mick. And hello, Scorpion. Oh my god, Scorpion. But still. I take it you were not expecting her to look like that, Nox. Well, actually, you know what? I went back to the very beginning of the book because there's a few images, a few scenes that were done.
I'm typing to you again.
Oh, you're good. I'm actually gonna take a few pictures of the color images at the very beginning of the book. Especially this one, because we actually passed a scene earlier.
Ooh, that'll be cool to see. Also, that's a pretty interesting fact that just popped up in your chat.
And I don't know if I can actually show this one on stream. I'll send that last one to you privately. There you go.
Thank you.
That was the very first meeting. Sure, you understand why I'm not sure if I can share it.
Well, now I can see why you can't show it.
Yeah. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Okay, and let's see if I can... Oh, fuck. Of course I'd be fucking... Okay. Yeah, fuck it. We'll suffer with this. Display capture. This was a scene that passed earlier. When he picked her up out of the... Well, when they got reunified, essentially, in the back of the wagon. The thing that she hastily kind of
Oh, that is so freaking
made to cover her ears. And the other one was, I think, from day 2, when they first met Zarin. When he was not allowed to see what she looked like. That's how she was.
That outfit couldn't have been comfortable.
What's that?
That outfit couldn't have been comfortable.
I mean, it was kind of something they had to make do with. Because, well, Lawrence had clothes for him, not for her. So she was just wearing his most expensive clothing that he would wear.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. Ugh. Okay.
Oh, I also figured out my bang problem.
Oh?
You know, for my model, the messing around with a PMX editor, I found out that I screwed up the bone order.
But still, she should eat them all. Become more god. God damn it, Scorpion.
Scorpion, you would say that.
Okay. There we go. The ad should be starting shortly, so I'll wait until that passes. Oh. Awesome. Okay, looks like ad started. And Nox, if you're also curious, book one, if it's been a while since I've seen it, I think book one is pretty well covered in season 1 of the anime.
To be honest, I wasn't even sure this was an anime.
Yep. They unfortunately only went 2 seasons.
Can I find this on Crunchyroll, or is there a different
Maybe? Actually, fuck it, let's check real quick.
I can look it up right now. Hang on. Oh, that.
Been so long since I watched it.
After reading the story, you could actually play those in your server for like a movie night.
Spice Wolf, sub and dub. They have season 1 and season 2. And double checking.
Hey, there you go.
Okay, so it looks like book 1 is the first 6 episodes. Well, first 4 or first 6 episodes.
Short.
So, looks like we'll have to get farther in the books then. Is what it is. I intend to do this every Sunday, so.
Hey, chat, what do you guys think? Guys in Tuckin's server for this.
That could be fun.
Heck yeah.
Wait. Will there be violence? Not much. Okay. Okay. And now to begin the epilogue. I heard violence. Leah. Bad Leah. Bad Leah. Please. Don't, Leah, don't go yandere on me. Please, no. I already got a yandere in the room with me right here.
I don't know what you mean.
Bullshit. I'm only safe from you because you can't reach a lot of things.
Excuse you.
Okay. Starting the epilogue.
Sometime off stream, I'll have to show you this other avatar I have. It's pretty more accurate to me in the Yandere.
Will do. Looking forward to seeing that. I mean, if you want to show me after this, I'm almost done with this one, so. Yep. Lawrence stood in utter darkness. Where he was and what he was doing there, he did not know. Darkness hung in every direction. But strangely, he could see his own body. He wondered where he was. As he pondered it, he caught a flash of something out of the corner of his eye. He turned to face it reflexively, but there was nothing. He rubbed his eyes, thinking it had been his imagination, when again the shape flitted across the corner of his vision. Was it a flame? He turned again to face it, and this time managed a good view of the shape. It was a chestnut brown something, waving. He stared at it, finally realizing that it was no flame. It was fur. It was a long clump of brown fur that waved, and it was tipped with a white tuft. Lawrence's eyes widened as his breath caught. He sprinted toward it. That tail! That white tuft! It was Hodo. There was no mistaking Hodo's tail. It grew smaller as it waved, and Lawrence called out for it as he ran with all his might. But no sound issued from his mouth, and the distance to Hodo's tail never diminished. His feet seemed to grow heavier, which frustrated him. He gritted his teeth, and even as he realized the futility of it, stretched out his right hand. In that moment, Lawrence blinked and looked up at an unfamiliar ceiling. He sat up with a start, and pain immediately shot through his left arm. For a moment, he was confused, but the pain brought back his memories in a rush. The Medio Company pursuing him, his arm being stabbed, being cornered, and Hodo leaving him. He remembering her tail waving forlornly as she receded. Lawrence sighed. Trapped in a body that could sit up only with effort, he wondered if there was anything else he could have said to her. The question loomed in his mind, dwarfing the more immediate issue of where he was. Ah, so you're awake, are you? Lawrence turned to face the unexpected voice and saw Marhite in the doorway. How are your injuries? Marhite walked toward Lawrence, documents in hand, and opened the window beside the merchant's bed. Better, thanks to you. A pleasant breeze blew in through the window, carrying sounds of hustle and bustle from which Lawrence inferred was a room at the Malone Company, which meant they had come to his rescue after all. I must apologize for putting you in such danger through our ineptitude. No, my companion was the cause of all this originally. Marhite nodded at Lawrence's words and paused, seeming to choose his next statement carefully. Fortunately, you were never discovered by the church, and the disturbance happened underground. If the church had seen your companion's true form, well, it's quite possible the entire company would have been burned as heretics. You saw her true form? Lawrence asked, stunned. Indeed. The people we sent to rescue you returned with a report that there was a giant wolf that said it wouldn't hand you over until I came personally. There was no reason for Marhite to lie, which meant that after Lawrence lost consciousness, Hodo returned to him. What of Hodo then? Where is she? She's gone on to the marketplace. She is quite impatient and said that she needed traveling clothes, said Marhite lightly, not knowing the circumstances, but Lawrence guessed that Hodo planned to set off on her own. She is probably on her way to the Northland even now. The thought left a hole in Lawrence's heart, but perversely also helped him feel that he could now make a clean break. The days they had spent together had been nothing more than a strange coincidence. Lawrence forced himself to consider it thus, bringing himself back to the mindset of a merchant. Aside from Hodo, there was another important implication of Marhite's words. You said Hodo went to the marketplace. Does that mean negotiations with the Medio Company went well? Yes. Our messenger returned from the Trenny Castle this morning, concluding negotiations with the king. We've obtained the considerations that the Medio Company so desperately wanted, and they seem to have acknowledged their defeat. Everything has gone very smoothly, said Marhite, pride filling his voice. I see. That's good to hear. So, I've slept for a full day then, have I? Oh, yes, you have. Would you care for some lunch? I was just in the kitchen. I doubt they've turned off the stoves yet. But you can have something hot. No, that's quite alright. Could I perhaps hear the final results of our negotiation? Yes, of course. Lawrence found it slightly odd that someone from the south wasn't forcing food on him. Perhaps if he had been from this area, Marhite would have been more insistent. The amount of silver we collected came to 307,212 pieces. The king plans to significantly cut the silver content of these coins, so he's agreed to pay an amount equivalent of 350,000 pieces. It was a staggering figure. Lawrence was not thinking about the absolute numbers, though. He is busy figuring out his approximate gain. He was contractually entitled to 5% of the Malone Company's profit. Lawrence estimated it would come out to something in the neighborhood of 2,000 silver pieces. It'd be enough to fulfill his dream, to open his own shop. According to our contract with you, Mr. Lawrence, we owe you 5% of our profit. Is that correct? Lawrence nodded, and Marhite nodded back. Marhite then handed Lawrence a single sheet of paper. Please confirm this, he said. Lawrence didn't hear him. An unbelievable figure was written on the paper. What's 120 pieces? 5% of our profit, said Marhite coolly. Yet Lawrence did not become angry. The paper made it clear what happened to the gain they'd expected. The cost of transporting the coins, the transfer fee when the king paid us, the silver tax, and the cost of processing the contract. His advisors undoubtedly put it up to it. They knew they would have to give up those special privileges, but they wanted to limit their losses on the silver exchange as much as they could. Looking at the details, he could see the king had a very had very cleverly exploited his position to get as much money back from the Malone Company as he could. In addition to requiring that the company pay for the collection and transport of the coins, he made them remit the silver coins directly rather than using a note of exchange. The transportation of them had been hugely expensive, running into the tens of thousands of pieces, after including horses, lockboxes for the money, and guards. The king had even charged them an exorbitant amount for drawing up the contracts. Though the signer on the Malone side was a wealthy merchant of noble descent from the south who operated his own branch of a large company, he was far from a king. There was no question of who held the upper hand. The Malone Company had to simply accept the charges. We calculate that our final profit was 2,400 pieces, 5% of which we're remitting to you as per our agreement. Lawrence had schemed like a man possessed, been stabbed in the arm for 120 silver coins. When he considered that if he hadn't gotten involved in this business, Odo might not have left him. The only figures he saw in his mind were red. It simply hadn't been worth 120 coins. But a contract was a contract. He had no choice but to accept it. Sometimes there were gains in life, and sometimes there were losses. It was a simple reality of being a merchant. He supposed that he should be happy not to have lost his life, and to have come out 120 silver pieces ahead. Lawrence slowly nodded. This was not something we expected. The outcome is regrettable, said Marhite. Unexpected outcomes are part and parcel of business, replied Lawrence. It is generous of you to say so. However, getting Lawrence's attention again, Marhite's tone had brightened up for some reason. Unexpected situations can also work out happily. Here. Lawrence accepted a second sheet of paper from Marhite, his eyes flicking over the contents. He immediately looked back up at Marhite in shock. The Medio Company badly wanted those special privileges, and they knew the silver they'd collected was going to depreciate rapidly soon. So it was like holding on to a debt. They expected they'd be able to turn a profit with that tariff authority. And they would do anything to get it. They made us an offer almost immediately. The document in Lawrence's hand stated that the share of his profit from this exchange was 1,000 silver pieces. 1,000 pieces? Is this really acceptable? It is a trifle, said Marhite with a smile. The Malone Company had no doubt made much more than that. But Lawrence was not so rude as to ask the exact figure. After all, being offered an extra contractual amount like this was like picking up a bar of gold on the street. Contracts were the core of commerce. Monetary exchanges without them might as well have been non-existent. Also, we've taken care of the fees for your convalescence, and we'll handle the care of your horse and wagon. Was my horse unhurt? Yes, it seems that even the Medio Company couldn't find much worth in him as a hostage. Lawrence couldn't help smiling at Marhite's hearty laugh. This is all far better treatment than he had any right to expect. We'll discuss the payment details and so on another day, then. Shall we? Said Marhite. That will be fine. Thank you so much, truly. Hardly. The pleasure is all ours. It's a small price to pay to remain in the good graces of a merchant of your ability, Mr. Lawrence. Marhite looked at Lawrence with eyes that rarely missed a calculation, and he smiled his best merchant smile. Probably on purpose. Still, the fact remained that Lawrence had received 1,000 pieces from the branch supervisor of a huge company. They clearly thought of him as a person with whom good relationship was important. A mere traveling merchant like Lawrence should be pleased by that. He nodded and thanked Marhite from his bed. Oh, I suppose I should ask, do you wish payment to be in silver? If you would prefer a different commodity, that could so be arranged. 1,000 coins would be heavy and bring no particular benefit for the weight. Lawrence considered Marhite's proposal, thinking about the amount he had been promised, the size of his wagon. A single item came to mind. Have you any pepper? It's light, compact, and as winter falls, its price will surely rise as meat becomes more available. Pepper, you say? Is there a problem? Said Lawrence, seeing Marhite chuckle. No, not at all. I recently read a play we received from the south, and that reminded me of it. A play? Indeed. A demon appears before a wealthy merchant and says, "Bring me the most delicious, succulent human you can, or I'll devour you." Not wanting to die, the merchant presents the demon with the youngest, most beautiful maids in his house, and the plumpest footman. But the demon shakes his head in disapproval. I see. So the merchant scatters money throughout the city, searching for a suitable person. Finally, he finds a handsome young monk who smells of milk and honey. He throws gold at the monastery to buy the lad, and brings him before the demon. But the boy says, "O you demon who fights the gods, the most savory human in the land is not I." Lawrence was completely absorbed in the tale. He nodded wordlessly. The most succulent human is before your very eyes. He has carried spices day in and day out. In his quest for money, and his fattened soul is perfectly seasoned. Continued Marhite cheerfully, gesturing expansively as he related the tale. In the end, he even imitated a wealthy merchant's terrified face before catching himself and grinning sheepishly. It's a religious play that the church uses to preach moderation in commerce. That's what I remembered. Pepper is surely appropriate for the merchant who was about to make his fortune, I think. Lawrence couldn't help smiling at the amusing tale and Marhite's praise. I hope I soon have a body suffused with spices anyway. Myself, he said. We'll look forward to that, and to many fruitful dealings in the future, Mr. Lawrence, said Marhite, as the two smiled at each other again. I'll see to your pepper. In the meantime, I have work to do. Marhite backed to the exit. Just then, there was a knock at the door. Perhaps that's your companion, said Marhite, but Lawrence was confident that such a thing was impossible. Marhite left the bedside to open the door, and Lawrence, his head on the pillow, looked out the window. He could see the blue sky. Overseer, sir, we received this bill. Lawrence heard the door open, and a reserved voice speaking with Marhite, along with the sound of a slip of paper being handed over. It was undoubtedly some urgent business. Lawrence looked up. The small clouds in the sky and wondered when he would be able to have his own shop. He soon heard Marhite speak. This is definitely addressed to our company, but... Lawrence looked back at Marhite, who was looking over at him. Mr. Lawrence, a bill's come for you. The names of Lawrence's many trading partners and the debts he owed flashed through his mind. He soon tried to think which among them had an approaching settlement date. But in any case, the amount of time he would remain in the given city was uncertain. Even if there'd been a settlement date yesterday, I couldn't think of anyone that'd hold a traveling merchant in such a strict time frame. And who would even know he was here? Could I see it, please? He asked. Barhite took the bill from his subordinate and brought it to Lawrence. Lawrence took it and skipped past the standard contractual section, coming to the details at the end. He thought that if he could see what the bill was for, he might tell him who it was from. But the items on the bill did not ring any bells. Lawrence said, cocking his head curiously, but suddenly he sat bolt upright. Barhite, shocked, tried to say something, but Lawrence ignored him, ran from the door, pushing it open, ignoring the pain in his left arm. "Excuse me." "Let me by," shouted Lawrence as the shocked employee made way. Lawrence ignored the strange look he received and ran down the hallway before stopping. "Where's the loading dock?" he demanded. "Follow this hall to the end, turn left, and it'll be..." "Thanks," said Lawrence shortly, dashing off. The rather expensive bill crumpled in his hand as Lawrence ran as fast as his strength would allow. It was the contents of that crumpled bill that had Lawrence in such a state. The date on the bill was today, and it included items from a Paseo textile merchant and a fruit seller. There were 2 high-quality women's robes and silk sashes, a pair of traveling shoes, a tortoiseshell comb, and a large amount of apples. In total, it all came to 150 silver pieces, and the apples in particular were far too numerous for one person to carry. Despite that, there was no entry on the bill for the use of a horse or cart. There was an obvious conclusion. Lawrence arrived at the loading dock. Mountains of products of every sort were lined up, with everything from goods brought from afar to exports about to leave. The dock overflowed with the horses and the shouts of people, the chaotic scene of just another day at the prosperous Malone Company. Lawrence scanned the surroundings for what he knew must be there. The large loading area was filled with horses and carts. Lawrence ran around, even slipping on a clump of scattered hay, before catching a glimpse of his own familiar horse and wagon approaching it. The other people working in the loading area looked at him strangely, but Lawrence took no notice of them, fixated on just one thing. In the bed of a wagon, piled high with apples. A small figure held a beautiful piece of fur in her hand, combing it with a tortoiseshell comb. She wore an obviously expensive robe and a hood pulled low over her head. After a time, she ceased her combing and sighed, not turning toward Lawrence. The figure in the seat in the wagon spoke. "I wouldn't wish for you to come to the northern forest simply to collect on a debt." Lawrence couldn't help laughing at her sullen tone. He approached the seat, and though Hodo stubbornly refused to look at him, he extended his right hand. Finally, she glanced at him, and although she soon returned her gaze to the tail in her hands, she reached out to him. Lawrence took her hand, and she finally relented to the smile. "I'll return home only after I've paid my debt." "But of course." Hodo's hands gripped Lawrence's very, very tightly. It seemed as though the travels of the strange pair would last a bit longer. That is to say, the travels of the wolf and the spice. That is the end of the book. The only thing left here is just the afterword. Basically the thank you from the author. Oh, fuck. It only took me 4 streams? 4 streams to do this?
Worth it. It was really relaxing though.
I think in this series I have... Oh god. So 4 weeks to a book, so 1 book a month. That means I got 2 years of material in Spice and Wolf.
Nice.
Then we'll find another story. Why not? Who knows? Maybe.
Hey, I realized, by the way, you've already seen the yandere model. I sent you a picture.
Oh.
That red one.
Wait, where'd you send it?
Discord.
You didn't send me anything in Discord. Unless you put it in,
Nope, give me a second.
Did you send it to the wrong person? Damn it, Skeeth, I see your message in my chat.
That would be something I would do, but no, it was like the other day or something.
Ah, fair enough.
Resent it.
Okay. Also, Nox, because Verve is actually shutting down here soon, I had to restart my my thing with Crunchyroll. I'll be able to shoot you my info for that.
I gotcha. Well, you don't have to.
I'm paying for a fucking service. I want to make sure that service gets its money worth out of it. and that I have no problem also sharing that info with people that I would trust to host essentially watch parties in the Discord.
Oh hell yeah! If I have time, I definitely will.
So. Okay. That's also why I have I have 2 watch party chats just in case. But still.
Yeah.
So hopefully I did well, everybody who's
I'm sorry,
currently
there's
here.
a little bit of a lag, so I mean.
Nah, you're good. That's not too bad a delay, though.
Nah, but I do need to go.
Okay, get some rest there. Sleep well, Knox. Thank you for hanging out. Oh, absolutely. But still. Thank you for being here, Nox. Thank you for being here, Leah. Seriously, everybody, thank you. I know this kind of started as a why not thing that kind of spawned out of the my reading stream that happened for my 400 follow. Because I was trying to do little milestone celebrations for every 100. Like, because for the 400 I did a reading stream for that it was like I was reading Edgar Allan Poe. And I know from there the desire to hear me read, well, something else kind of spawned. So I'm happy to have you guys here. I know it's kind of a new bit of content for me, but even still, it lets me have some fun sharing something I love with all of you. I'm glad to see it well received. So, thank you all. Fucking thank you. Leah, Skeeth, Nox, Hope, Scorpion, Cat, Cam, Mick, new follower, Chainsaw. Oh, the other person didn't follow. Were they? The Vacant Veto. Seriously. Nunzi, for the little bit you were here. Seriously. Zeta. You're all fucking awesome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out. This is book 1 down, and next week we'll start book 2. Yeah, you caught the end, Callie. We just finished book 1 of Spice and Wolf. I don't have a regular start time yet for these. So, but I do want to do these every Sunday. I'm going to be working at... I'm currently recording this one. So it'll save me the effort that I need to go through for the other ones. But these will all be posted in their entirety on YouTube. So hopefully if you guys like my voice enough and you want to listen to the audiobook of Spice and Wolf, that'll all be over there. But even still, thank you all for being here. Let's find somebody to raid. Hey Leah, do you have any friends that are live right now? Well, I'm happy to hear that, Callie. Soothing is a descriptor I usually hear. You said Baffy the Saffy. Let's see. Copy. Duplicate. Enter. Sounds good to me. Oh, you know what? We got enough people here. They're only 8 followers from their goal of 850 follows. Okay, think we can make them hit it?
So you have chosen death.
I have not chosen death. I've chosen life. Oh, fucking damn it, cat. I see that. I'm waiting for it. Wait, where is it? There it is. Fuck you, cat. Oh, you know what? Fuck it. Hey, can somebody clip that? Me just waiting for the goddamn bonk, knowing it was coming. God damn it. Okay. Now, cat, I was gonna say, stream is over. Yeah, no. This channel has follower or sub. Oh. Okay. Well, I was gonna ask you guys to follow her anyways, or follow them anyways, but. Yeah. But even still, let's see if we can. Let's see if we got enough people to help help them hit their 850 goal. We might be able to. Okay. Everybody, thank you for being here. Thank you for lurking. Thank you for listening. I will be back streaming Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday. I know I'll be doing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this week. So, I'll see you guys later. Have a good day, night, whatever it might be for y'all. And until next time. And boop.